welcome to this episode of Experts on Purpose. The special guest we have today is Lexie Sparrow. Lexie is a holistic nutritionist, business coach, and strategist. She makes starting an online coaching business straightforward so emerging entrepreneurs can skip past the months or years of trial and error and start working with dream clients while getting paid to do what they love. Her mission is to give other coaches the tools and resources they need to confidently build their business using their own unique, energetic strategy so they can step into the person they are meant to be. Hey, Lexi, welcome to Experts on Purpose.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
My pleasure. I really get excited when I see people change their profession over a course of time. So I know you are a holistic nutritionist who is now a business coach. So, how did you first of all become a nutritionist, and then how did this transition happen?
Oh my goodness. So I'll give you the shortest version that I can think of. And this is a great introduction, I think, to today's episode, because I think one thing you'll learn about my journey is that I've tried on a bunch of different hats. So for nutrition, I actually was first a personal trainer and an athletic therapist. That's what my traditional university degree is in. And
Mhm.
as I started working with people in that health and wellness field, I started to learn I need to know more about nutrition. I need to
Mhm.
be able to offer not only the movement side and the
Mhm.
healing side, but also the nutrition side. So I went back to school and I became a holistic nutritionist in 2018. And I started my own business at that point, offering kind of this collective of movement and nutrition and athletic therapy. And as that grew and as I learned more and more about the business side of
Mhm.
running a business and getting started and how to actually make money doing
Yeah.
this, people started asking me, how are you doing that? Like, how do you have more time in the day than I do? How are you getting all these things done?
Mm.
And I just had people start to ask me about it. And it kind of just naturally happened for me to start coaching other coaches and nutritionists and kind of teaching them what I was
Yeah.
learning and experimenting with and what was working for me. So it just happened naturally, really.
Wow. So traditionally, if you become a nutritionist, most people work with a hospital or some kind of a facility where their clients come to them. They don't have to go looking for clients. But few of them, like you, come out and you want to do it as an independent practice. So, what is the difference, and what are the pros and cons?
So in Canada and in the US, to work in the hospital setting or to work in more of a traditional healthcare
Yeah.
setting, you have to be a registered dietitian.
RD.
And so that's a different stream than what we're seeing in today's world of online nutrition, which it's a lot more holistic nutrition. So I went through the Nutritional Therapy Association, but I know there's many different programs that offer holistic nutrition now. And the reason why I chose that path was the holistic aspect,
Hmm.
really focusing on what's the root cause that's happening in someone's body to maybe make them have digestive pain and bloating, or to make them break out in acne, or whatever it was that that person was struggling with that
Yeah.
food could be tied to, versus when you go through more of a registered dietitian approach. It's just a different program, right? They're focusing on different parts of the food, and they are geared more towards working with people who might already have
Mhm.
chronic diseases or chronic issues or chronic health concerns, versus I wanted to work more on the preventative side. So
Right.
before people got to that stage where they were in a hospital or working with a doctor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So, was it like a setup where people had to come and meet you in person, or did you start it as an online business from day one?
So I started as a hybrid from day one. So I
Uh-huh.
was dabbling with online, and this was back in 2018. So this was like before everyone had Zoom on their
Yeah.
phones and everyone knew how to work things. So I did have a lot of people that I was seeing in person, and I got invited by three different places in my hometown to, set up shop, so to speak, within
Hmm.
that. So a chiropractic office, a gym where I was also doing some personal training, training, and then another clinic where it was multidisciplinary. So they had a physical
Right.
therapist, a massage therapist. So I was seeing people in person, and then I was also seeing people who maybe were in my province but not close to the city, who maybe saw me once in the city and then they realized, oh, I can see you online. I don't have to drive in to see you.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was kind of a hybrid approach at the beginning.
Yeah, that's smart. So, what was the initial marketing that you did for yourself, Lexi? How did these three places who reached out to you get to know that we have a holistic nutritionist in our area?
So I think Instagram was definitely pivotal for me at the beginning because it was just fun and it was free and I could get on there and talk and share my knowledge and connect with other people right away. So I do think Instagram and starting an Instagram account and
Yeah.
really being on there consistently and talking about these things was really helpful. And then I think honestly, word of mouth was huge. I think people underestimate that when you're starting a business, even an online business these days,
Yeah.
like word of mouth is huge. So I think just having discussions with like my
Mm,
personal training clients, with gyms, attending different networking events in the city
mm,
where there were other personal trainers or chiropractors or other people, because building that network allowed me to get introduced to all of these people who saw that what I was doing. And essentially, like, I didn't even pitch myself to them. They came to me and said, hey, do you want to work out of my space? I have clients
mm.
I can send you. So I think definitely, it was, I think, universal, like divine timing in that way, but also it's one of the things that I leverage with my clients is you can't underestimate that word of mouth and just
Yeah.
starting local. Even if you want to build online later, starting local to make those connections with people
Mm.
in person is huge.
Absolutely. And these are certain things that they do not teach us when we take up a course or go to college. I mean, you equip yourself in a particular skill, but then how do you market yourself? How do you set up your practice? That's actually how your clients are going to reach out to you and finally pay you some money, right? So that is one skill that is not really taught unless you go looking out for that, business skill. So what are some of the things you did, Lexi, to develop this business muscle of yours?
Oh, well, first off, I think that's such a huge point that people might not realize until after they've graduated.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about career changes, right? And we're seeing that across the board. People are going back to school and getting certifications or trainings in things that they're more passionate about, that they
Mm.
want to explore as a career or start their own business in. And they don't realize that, right? I mean, I definitely didn't. I think, I have a university degree, I have 3 different certifications, and I think in all of those years of training, I took one intro to business course, which honestly didn't teach me that much. And
Yeah.
so I had all the skills to work with clients, but like you said, I had no skills for starting a business, which
Mm.
is super overwhelming. So I think the things that I focused on, to be honest, wouldn't necessarily be the things that I recommend now.
Mhm.
I tried to do so many things at once. Like I dove
Yeah.
into taking all of the trainings and the courses and signing up to, work with all different mentors. And I think I got really overwhelmed, to be
Mm.
honest. And I felt like I have to do all of these things to start my business. Like now I have to be an expert in business. And that's so not true. So what I recommend to people is just, in the beginning, think about the easiest way
Mm.
for you to start energetically exchanging what you have to offer, right? Like, how could I actually set up a system where somebody comes and sees me either in person or online so that I can give them my knowledge
Mm.
and I can coach them? And then how do I get paid for that? Right? We're lucky again in today's world, there's so many different online tools to get
Yeah.
paid. And a lot of them don't even cost us anything. They
Mm.
might charge us a small 3 or 5% fee when somebody pays, but that's pretty much it. So
Yeah.
it could be as simple as, hey, I'm offering this service, like text me, right?
Mm.
Or, message me on Instagram if you want to sign up. They say, hey, I'm interested. And you send them a Zoom link. Zoom is free to get started.
Yeah.
You pitch them and then you send them an invoice on something like Stripe or
Mm.
PayPal. Like it can be really, really simple to get started. So I think the main thing is don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning. Get really focused on, okay, what do I actually need to do to start making money right now?
Mm.
All the bells and whistles are super fun, right? Having a
Yeah.
fancy website, having professional headshots, having all of
Mm.
the automated tools where emails go out automatically.
Yeah.
But all that stuff can come when you start to work with
Later.
people, right?
I think those are nice things
Yeah.
to have, but not must-haves.
Exactly. The must haves is, what do you actually want to help people with? Getting
Mm.
really, really clear on that. And then having some way to have people contact you and having some way for you to kind of showcase what you're all about. So I talked about Instagram, but if Instagram doesn't work for you, maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe
Yeah.
it's Facebook, maybe it's Pinterest. TikTok is blowing up these days. So whatever feels easy and creative to you for you to share what you're all about, just keep it really simple in the beginning and very streamlined.
Yeah.
And I think if I went back in time, I would have done that for a lot longer instead of trying to like jump ahead so many steps
Yeah.
in the
Do too many
beginning.
things at a time.
Yeah.
Right. This is really, practical advice, Lexi. So, what are some of the other common mistakes that you see a lot of first-time, online entrepreneurs make? Before they probably reach out to you, they must have made a bunch of mistakes, right? Before they decide that I need some hand-holding from a coach. So, what are those things?
Yes, there's definitely a few things. So the first thing I see is just unclear messaging.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone comes and finds you online, they probably are not well versed in the language of your niche or of
Mm-hmm.
your degree or
Yeah.
certification. So I see this a lot in nutrition, obviously, because I work with a lot of nutritionists and
Mm-hmm.
that's my background. So, you come to somebody's page and they're like, I'm a dysbiosis gut health expert. Oh, the average person who's struggling with bloating
Won't
and
get it.
heartburn and
Yeah.
pain, yeah, they don't get that, right? So I think messaging is huge and
Mm.
it's really hard once you've done all those years of study and you're like, oh, I really do know what's happening with this person and I know what they need. It's
Mm.
hard to go back to where we were before we knew that
Mm.
information and think, okay, what did I used to call that? Before I knew what it was actually all about. So I think messaging is the number one thing where they're being clear in their messaging, but in a way that's not resonating with the person that they're trying to attract. So
Mm.
definitely spending some time on that, trying to figure out, okay, what is that person actually searching for online? Like, if they were to go to Google and type in, like, I
Mm.
need help with XYZ, what would they actually be typing in? So I
Right.
think definitely we spend time on that. And then after the messaging piece, and you feel like, okay, I'm speaking to the right sort of people, the next common mistake that I see is too many offers at once.
Mm.
So instead of just focusing in and getting really clear on one service or one
Mm.
program or one course, even whatever you want to offer, we see, oh, but I can help with this and I can help with that and we can do this and we can do that. And what happens is I call it like Netflix syndrome. When you get on Netflix and you're like, I want to watch a new
Yeah.
show and you spend 30 minutes scrolling through
Yeah.
everything and then you don't even end up watching anything. That's how your ideal client feels when they come to your
Mm.
website or come to your Instagram and they don't know the difference, right? It might be obvious to you, again, or anyone in your
Mm.
field what the difference in your programs and services is, but it might not be obvious to them.
Yeah.
And so they're sitting there confused about, okay, well, which one do I start with and what do I need first? And do I need all of these? And they get really overwhelmed and then they
Mm.
just don't sign up to work with you. So I think nailing down that messaging piece, like who do I want to help? How are they searching
Mm.
online? How can I actually connect with them? And
Yeah.
then what did they really need? Let me just start with one really, really clear service, whether
Mm.
that's a one-on-one or a program or whatever feels good to you to get started with. And the key is you can always change all of this.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's another thing that maybe if we add the third thing in is people get like, oh my gosh, I need to pick my branding name and this is going to be with me for the rest of my life. Or I need to pick my logo and I can never change it. Like you can change your niche statement. You can change the programs and offers that you're offering later
Mm.
down the road. You just have to like pick one to begin with and get started, or you'll never figure out what you truly want to offer or what you truly
Mm.
want to say.
Yeah. So when you started out, Lexi, with the business coaching aspect, initially you were getting your nutritionist friends who were just out of curiosity, they wanted to learn from you about how you set up your business. But after working with a few clients, did you realize that you were doing this very differently from the other business coaches out there? Because I see that your website truly stands out, your messaging is like on point. So how did you arrive at this place?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. And let's just say it has been a journey. And I think, again, just to anyone who's listening and you're just starting, I think the biggest piece of advice I can give you is let it be a journey.
Yeah.
Again, you don't have to figure it out in the beginning. I spent so much time like beating myself up for not getting it correct the first time. And it's funny now looking back because I feel like I've just kind of gone in a full circle in my business and I'm kind of coming back to like maybe the place that I started, but in totally different light. So
Mm.
just putting that out there if you're listening, like let it evolve, let it change, let it grow with you. That's totally okay. But yeah, when I first started, I started in time management and systems and productivity. And
Mm.
really, what it was is that I was getting things done while working a full time job and running this business. And people were like, how the heck did you do that? Right? How did you have hours in the day?
Yeah.
What shortcuts were you doing? And so I started teaching people what I was doing, but I also started adding something called human design to it as
Mm.
well. And human design, I mean, we could do like a whole other episode all about human design, but just in a nutshell, if you've never heard of human design, it's a really amazing system that can tell you a lot more about yourself, that the natural way that you work best, the natural way that you move and exchange energy with others in the world. It can tell you about your natural gifts, some things that you might actually know about that are part of your personality, some things that you might unconsciously just have in you that others recognize in you. So I started to use
Mm.
this system to help others create systems and routines and pillars of their business that worked best for them. Because I
Mm.
was noticing that there's so much marketing out there of this one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
You see it all the time, like my 6-figure proven strategy or 100 clients in 100 days if you work for me. And the truth
Yeah.
is that maybe all these strategies do work, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And
Mm.
I found that to be so true for myself when I was in my early years. So I started experimenting with this with my clients, and it's just
Mhm.
evolved over the years of, okay, we have these systems and we do have some proven systems and strategies and foundational business advice that we know
Mhm.
works well, but how do we actually individualize it for how you're supposed to be successful? You know,
Right.
how what feels right and aligned for you.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like trying on a few different hats, and really does take some experimenting and figuring out, okay, does that feel good to me? Does that not feel good to me? But ultimately, if you can get something that's created for you,
Mhm.
then you're going to be successful in the long term versus what many of us try to do with these programs is
Yeah.
fit ourselves into somebody else's way of
Yeah.
doing things. And then we get so frustrated because we wasted time and energy. And of course, it didn't work for us. It wasn't made for us. It was
Mm.
never supposed to work for us.
Wow, this is such an interesting concept, Lexi, and I'm so glad we are talking about this now because recently at Happy Self Publishing, we've been telling our clients that no two authors are the same. So just because one author is able to write, write for 5 hours on the weekend, it doesn't mean everybody is the same. Maybe you just cannot write. That doesn't mean you can't be an author. You just have to follow a different method, right? So I just want you to give an example of two people in the same industry, maybe their skill sets are the same, but because of their difference in their human design,
Yeah.
they're not able to, I mean, they're supposed to take two different approaches towards marketing or, even the way they run their business.
Totally. Okay. So, one of my like first clients, her name is Ashley, and she is a manifesting generator. Now, again, not to get too bogged down into the human design, but manifesting generators are a combination between two other types, a manifester and a generator. And so what that
Okay.
essentially means is they are like supercharged. They're super powered. They like to move really fast. They're really good at like getting an idea and starting it, not so great at following through. They kind of like halfway through if they're not still passionate about it or if they don't have support to follow through. They're like, okay, I'm on to the next idea and I'm on to the next idea.
Mm.
Another thing about manifesting generators is that they're actually meant to be multitaskers and multi passionate. they're actually supposed to work on multiple different things at once and maybe have
Okay.
multiple streams to their business. So traditional approach is like, no, you must pick one niche. You can only
Mm,
teach on one topic. Doesn't really work well for them. And that's kind of what Ashley was feeling. Her background is very similar to mine. She's a personal trainer and had done that for years. She went back to school, got her nutritional therapy, and she was really big into women's health as a holistic approach, right?
mm,
The personal training and the nutrition. And she was feeling boxed in where, oh my gosh, I have to pick one or the other, or I have to create a program that has both, or and we kind of threw that all out the window and we said, what if you're able to talk about all of those things,
mm,
right? And so we changed her marketing approach where she actually talks about, she has posts where she just talks about fitness, and then she has posts where she just talks about nutrition, and then she was
mm,
also really, really passionate about using more natural products for our body as well, for our hormones and our gut health and everything. So she talked about that as well. So we developed a marketing plan where she could actually talk about all three of these things, and it
mm,
made sense coming from her and her energy. People were like, oh, I'm just in Ashley's world, like this is a part of
right.
Ashley's world. And she had some people who came and just signed up for her nutrition program. She had some people who came and just signed up for her fitness, and then she had some who
Mhm.
ended up doing, both at some point as well, and it
Nice.
worked for her. So we had to take a totally different approach, knowing that she was always going to want to do multiple things. And instead
Mm,
of squashing that and trying to make her pick one thing, we just experimented with, okay, how do we keep your messaging consistent, but you're
mm,
able to talk about multiple things at once?
right. But the same approach may not work for another fitness expert who has a different human design.
Exactly. So, in on contrast to that, another projector whose name also happens to be Ashley, just coincidentally, she same thing. She had a background in personal training and in exercise science. She went back to school. There's definitely themes here, I guess. The people that I work with went back to school, got her nutrition, but she was ready to just dive into the nutrition piece.
Mm,
Her personal story was really, really big, and she had had this big evolution of like losing weight and changing her lifestyle, and it had started with the fitness, and then it had morphed into this more holistic view of nutrition and what I fuel my body with. That actually impacts me more than even my working out. So she wanted to
mm,
share that weight loss story and that side of things. And as a projector, projectors have a very penetrating aura. They are really good one on one with somebody. They connect really deeply with their clients. They are the wise experts. So they like to study a lot and know a lot about a topic before they teach it, almost to
mm,
the point sometimes where they're like, if I'm not the expert, I can't speak to that yet. And
yeah.
so she had done tons of studying and tons of kind of gathering her knowledge and experimenting with her weight loss approach. And so for her, it was really important for us in her marketing to have her kind of be like that really trusted advisor or that trusted friend. So she kind of in her world developed this, here's a lot of information, here's some things that I've learned, here's some of
Mm,
my personal story and my journey. And hey, if you want to learn more, I would love to connect with you. And
right.
her marketing had to be a lot more passive, because with the projector type, they actually have to be invited by somebody to work with them. And what this really means is, I mean, to give an example, have you ever been like sharing your story with somebody, or sharing like something that's happening in your life, and you're like, oh, so and so was so angry to me the other day, and like I don't know why, and somebody kind of like butts in and they're like, well, if you would have just said this, that conversation could have gone differently. And you're like, who asked you? I didn't ask you. I was just sharing.
Yeah. I
That's
do
a
that all the
projector.
time with my husband. I will share a problem and he will give me a solution immediately. And I will tell him, I didn't ask you for a solution. You just had to nod your head.
Exactly. And so that's a perfect example, because I feel like that's happened to many of us, of a projector who hasn't been invited to speak yet.
Mm,
So with a projector in their marketing and their business, they might have the answer. They might be able to butt in and maybe solve or give those solutions. But if somebody hasn't asked for that yet, or invited them to talk about that topic, or invited them to share their
mm,
advice, it feels that way of like, who the heck asked you? So the difference is you have to set up your marketing and
mm,
your business around creating opportunity for people to invite you, right?
Right.
And just a side note, I'm also a projector. And so, how I end up working with a lot of people is I get messages, I get
Mm.
emails, I get people reaching out to me in direct messages saying, hey, I want to connect, I want to learn more, like inviting me in that
Mm.
way. And so, we had to set up her business. She did discovery calls, those free calls, 10-15 minute calls at the beginning where people could just connect with her and kind
Yeah.
of get one-on-one with her and feel her energy.
Mm.
And from there, people would, like, they always talk about, what's your success rate on a sales call? And, what's your conversion script? For her, she didn't even need one. Once people got on that call with her and were in her energy, it was like everyone was signing up to
Yeah.
work with her. So just
Yeah.
different approaches, right? That wouldn't have worked for Ashley. Ashley would have been like, I don't have time to do
Mm.
discovery calls. Like, I'm on to
Mm.
the next thing. That feels like a waste of my energy. Ashley jumped right into more group programs.
Mm.
So two totally different people doing similar things in similar fields, but
Yeah.
they had to take completely different approaches.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing some real life case studies like these, Lexi, because it makes me understand that, by just having this information about, this insight into what your human design is, your life could be a lot easier, right? You don't have to really struggle to get clients because now you're in alignment with what's more natural for you.
Exactly. That's the whole premise behind using it is, what is that natural alignment? How are you
Mm.
going to draw people to you just with showing up in your energy? I mean, we've all felt that, whether you believe in, that energetic exchange or energetic frequency or human design at all, we've all felt when somebody confident and sure of themselves walks into a room and
Mm.
they radiate and people are magnetically drawn to that person, right? Somebody
Yeah.
who's like happy and charismatic or who's confident or whatever, you feel attracted to, we feel drawn to go and have a conversation with them. And if you
Mm.
can do that in your business, if you can do that online, if you could do that in your marketing, if you could do that in
Mm.
your networking, it's going to be a lot easier for you to attract clients with that
Yeah.
type of energy. And the best part is it feels natural to you. It's not
Yeah.
like you're trying to put on a facade or trying to,
Mm.
follow through a system or in a business approach where you're like, ooh, I'm not really sure about this. Like you'll be
Yeah.
sure in it because it'll feel right for you as well.
Exactly. And you also talk a little bit, I think, on your website about the business design. How is the business design different from human design?
So for me, the business design comes from your human design and your experience and your expertise. So when I
Uh-huh.
work with somebody, I really take a unique approach of, yes, there's the human design, but I also understand that we might not resonate with everything in our human design right away.
Hmm.
It might feel really overwhelming to learn all of this new information. And so we take the pieces that feel correct for us at this time. And as a side note, that could be that there might be some personal work that we need to do, whether
Mm.
that's some shadow work, some inner healing, kind of figuring out, what the world was trying to tell us that we weren't able to be in ourselves, right? So maybe you were always meant to, be a speaker and be on stage and share stories. Maybe that's in your design that you're really strong in that, but you grew up with people saying, you're really bossy. Stop raising your hand. No one wants to hear from you anymore. You talk over everyone. You might have been conditioned to say, ooh, okay, I don't really know if I want to share that gift. So there could be a lot of that going on as well in human design.
Mm.
So I take that into account, right? What that person's experience has been with pieces of their chart, what feels most aligned to them. Then we
Right.
take a look at, okay, well, what is your actual experience? What is your story? So, for example, Ashley had a really great weight loss story and her evolution of how she got to a really healthy weight and a healthy place with eating. So, that kind of went into her business messaging and her business design. And then we
Mm.
take a look at, okay, what actually feels good for the actual structure and foundation of your business. So, what I mean by that is, what type of offers are you going to have? What type of
Mm.
services are you going to have? Are you going to do one-to-one coaching? Are you going to do group coaching? Are you going to have an app? Whatever the structure is going to be. And how are you going to actually enroll clients and work with them and offer
Mm.
that transformation for them, right? Again, are we going to do it completely online? Is it in person?
Yeah.
Do they get resources? Like really designing that back end foundation. And
Mhm.
again, I think this is something where people think, oh, there's this one way way that I have to do it. Like if I'm a nutritionist, I have to work one-to-one with somebody and I have to write this massive protocol each time I meet with them
Mm.
and I have to, XYZ. And that's just not true. You can create whatever you want to create in your business. So the business design side comes from looking at that person's human design. Where are they at in their personal journey with
Mhm.
that and discovering their genius, discovering their gifts? What has their experience been? Do they have a personal story that they like to share? How many clients have they had? What do they actually want to teach? And then the business design comes in as to, okay, what's the best way for you to start making money? What's the easiest way for you to lay the strong foundations in your business and get really clear on what your next steps are for the first few years in your business so that you don't get burned out by getting sidetracked on all
Yeah.
these different options.
That's the most important thing, no? Because when you put in so much of effort in building a business based on your expertise, but you're not happy at the end of the day, then what's the point? So I'm really proud of the work that you're doing, Lexi, because it's serving so many entrepreneurs. So what would be your final word of advice to all those experts out there who are still playing a small game? They're not really owning their expertise and taking it to the next level.
It would be to honor what feels right for you. We have intuition for a reason, and you might be really strong in being able to tap into that right now, or that might be something that has felt foreign to you, and your logical mind takes over and tells you, oh no, I have to do this, or I
Mm.
should be doing this to be successful. I think spending some time figuring out what that success looks
Means.
like to
Mm.
you. Yeah. Like, what is the purpose behind the business? What's your big why for all of this? To make
Mm.
money, to be successful? Okay. What does that actually mean to you? Does
Mm.
success mean more freedom? Does success mean stability? Does success mean being able to help others more regularly? Like getting really, really clear on that and using that as your guiding light for anything that you do before you sign up
Right.
to work with somebody, right? A coach or a mentor, before you launch a new offer, coming back to that why and thinking, okay, does this truly align with why I started this business or why I want to do this in the first place? Or am I just doing this next step because I feel like I should be doing it or I have to be doing it?
Mm.
You should be lit up by every decision that you make in your business. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be scary or uncomfortable
Yeah.
sometimes to push yourself outside your
Yeah.
comfort zone. But if in your core, in your gut, if you believe, yes, okay, this makes sense, I feel really good about this decision or this
Mm.
next step, then it is totally right for you. And don't be afraid to slow down and just, maybe spend some time figuring
Yeah.
out what that next step is, right? You don't have to jump from one thing to the next. Just there's something to be said about slowing down so
Mm.
that those thoughts and the right people can kind of come into your sphere. If you're constantly running from one thing to the next
Mm.
in your early years of business, you might not be able to see what's so obvious right around you, those connections or those new clients. So I think getting clear on your purpose, your why, understanding what is success means to you, and
Mm.
then being able to slow down sometimes and smell the roses and like say, hey, I've accomplished something amazing already. Like, what's next?
Amazing. This is such a powerful message. I'm sure, the listeners and the people who are even seeing our interview are going to just love this. So where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so the best place is the website. So lexiesparrow.com, lexiesparrow.com. You can come hang out on Instagram at the.wildsparrow on Instagram. And then I also have a podcast. So I talk all about business building strategies. We talk about things from the masculine side, so systems and proven
Mm.
steps and actionable tasks. But we also talk a lot about the feminine strategies of using human design and using your intuition and
Mm.
following your purpose as well. So that's the Magnetic Business Podcast, and you can go check that out as well.
Fantastic. We're going to have all the links right below in the show notes. Thank you so much, Lexi, for coming on Experts on Purpose.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.